As with boxing, when it's at the elite stage, you can't play games.
without necessarily striving to win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I told you. It's WWE. Okay? This is WWE, like I told you.
This is crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds.
Floyd Mayweather confronts Jake Paul over the no knockout rule in his upcoming fight with Gervonta Davis. He argues that Jake is only focused on selling the event and turning it into entertainment rather than real competition. Floyd believes the fight lacks seriousness, but admits both fighters understand what they are stepping into. He insists that true boxing should be about skill and competition, not staged rules that turn it into a show. But like I said before, they know what they're doing. Both brothers. Yeah. Wade Plemons on X stated, "I think we all knew this would be an exhibition, but the Florida State Athletic Commission saying they will display skill without necessarily striving to win using strikes and blows to the head or other full contact maneuvers probably isn't the best to advertise the fight, lol." Plemons is known for his sharp takes in boxing, and here he criticizes the Athletic Commission for weakening the perceived intensity by emphasizing that fighters won't be aiming to win through full contact. His comment suggests that for fans who expect a boxing match, such framing undermines excitement. Floyd Mayweather has always thrived on competition, even outside his official career. Analysts now believe his decision to push for a fight with Mike Tyson is not just about money, but about pride and positioning. The upcoming clash between Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul has stirred a wave of publicity, and Floyd seems determined to prove that no one, not even his protege Tank, can outshine him in the spotlight. By setting up Floyd versus Mike, he ensured that the world's attention would shift back to him with his fight overshadowing the spectacle of Jake versus Tank. This is classic Mayweather strategy. Stay relevant, control the headlines, and show that his name still carries unmatched weight in boxing culture.
Know that there's so many celebrities and so many people that are known where you can get somebody and they can sell tickets to events. That's what kicked off the social media influence boxing that Jake Paul was birthed from. Now we're in a vacuum. And so there's going to be a lot of conversation about that and continuing to do that. In this particular video, though, I want to get into the mind of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and why Floyd Mayweather Jr. would do this. There is the money, but there's also the competitive nature of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and him not wanting to have other people think that they're a bigger star than he is. Floyd Mayweather Jr. has not been able to really launch his star outside of the sport of boxing, so he continues to do exhibitions. Now, what I think is that Floyd Mayweather Jr. is announced it at this point in time with Mike Tyson in order to take advantage of the publicity heading into the Gervonta Davis, Jake Paul fight, which is, I do believe, set for November. So now that they have all the publicity and all that stuff coming out from that, he's going to piggyback on it and then try to have it in the beginning of next year sometime and actually make it a bigger event than Gervonta versus Jake Paul. And it probably will be. And the reason that I say that is because of Mike Tyson.
So now that they have all the publicity and all that stuff coming out from that, he's going to piggyback on it and then try to have it in the beginning of next year sometime and actually make it a bigger event than Gervonta versus Jake Paul. And it probably will be, and the reason that I say that is because of Mike Tyson. At the heart of the matter lies the issue of legacy. Mayweather, retired and undefeated, has nothing to lose from his exhibitions. For him, it is purely financial and reputational maintenance. Jake Paul, still new to the sport, uses these spectacles to build his name. But for Gervonta Davis, the decision cuts deeper. Every fight he chooses at this stage shapes his career trajectory. By prioritizing entertainment over competition, Davis risks damaging his standing among purists who want to see him tested against legitimate contenders. The question becomes, is short-term fame worth the long-term consequences?
Whether what is going to happen in that fight is basically the same thing as what's happening to Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford, except for that is a live action fight that is a real competitive fight. But the marketing of it is the same thing, and the fact that somebody is going to pay for it is more likely with Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Mike Tyson than it is with even Jake Paul and Gervonta. But I think that it really is an attempt to compete with Gervonta Davis by setting up a bigger fight than Gervonta Davis is having. And now I'm going to tell you this something else too. I would not put it past these people.
The Tank versus Jake Paul fight might have been enough to dominate conversations, but Floyd's move ensures that the boxing world cannot ignore him. For decades, he has mastered the art of drawing attention to himself, even if it meant stepping outside traditional boxing rules. His latest maneuver demonstrates his competitive edge. He refuses to let anyone, including Jake Paul with his celebrity status or Tank Davis with his prime form, become the central figure of boxing's current era. By signing the fight with Mike Tyson, Floyd essentially positioned himself as the main act again. The sheer nostalgia of Tyson's name combined with Floyd's undefeated legacy makes this a storyline far more marketable than Jake Paul versus Tank Davis. The controversy surrounding Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis lies in the fact that the fight is not sanctioned as an official boxing contest. The commission's refusal to approve it as a professional bout means it will only be an exhibition, a show rather than a true competitive clash. Critics argue this brings the fight closer to wee-wee-style entertainment where the goal is not victory but spectacle. With no knockouts expected and no official stakes on the line, many see the event as a marketing gimmick rather than a legitimate fight. While this may generate short-term buzz, it dilutes the authenticity of boxing in the eyes of purists who crave genuine competition.
Will face Gervonta Davis in an exhibition match. Quote, "You can't do a fight like that as a pro fight," Shipman said. It'll be an exhibition fight, end quote. Similarly to the concerning location move, he states that the main reason for this is the significant weight disparity between the two opponents. An exhibition is defined by Florida statutes as a boxing, kickboxing, or mixed martial arts engagement in which persons participating show or display their skills without necessarily striving to win, using strikes, elbows, blah, blah, blah. So, the key word here is, key phrase, show or display their skills without necessarily striving to win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I told you. It's WWE. Okay? This is WWE, like I told you. These are setup fights. These are rigged fights. I know Jake Paul gets upset when people say he ain't a real fighter and all that stuff. But I think the Mike Tyson fight pretty much showed everybody that Mike was pulling back on his punches, and it just was weird to me. You know what I'm saying? Now you got Gervonta Tank Davis getting ready to sell his soul to go up in here and move around the ring with Jake Paul. I don't know what's going to happen on this. I don't know, but regardless of the fact, the fight is going to do well because it's going to be on Netflix. So everybody got Netflix, so everybody's going to watch the fight. So it's going to be like a wrestling event, basically, a fake scripted fight.
Former world champion Paulie Molina has been particularly vocal about his frustrations with the Jake versus Tank matchup. He insists that knockouts only hold value when they come against real, evenly matched opponents. In his eyes, manufactured setups like this one cheapen the sport. He also believes that Jake Paul is being given undeserved credibility by participating in events that carry spectacle but not substance. When he debated with Chris Algieri, Paulie pointed out that casual fans might be entertained, but true boxing enthusiasts understand that this fight lacks the integrity of real championship bouts. His words strike at the core issue, authenticity. One of the primary reasons this matchup cannot be considered a professional fight is the significant weight difference between the two men. The Florida Commission was clear that such a wide disparity creates unfair conditions and risks the safety of the fighters. For that reason, they only approved it as a sparring session with a predetermined framework for decision-making rather than a sanctioned fight. This decision highlights the structural limits of boxing as a sport. Entertainment can only go so far before regulations intervene. The fact that this had to be reframed as an exhibition underscores just how unorthodox the matchup is.
Paulie, knockouts, dude. Knockouts. People like knockouts. They don't care if you're knocking out cab drivers. Look at Jake Paul's career.
You can manufacture that though. You can manufacture that though. You can manufacture.
You can't manufacture.
To a
Gervonta
degree,
Davis.
you can. To a degree. I mean, you
Destroying
can't. Yeah,
Frank Martin.
Gervonta legitimately cannot get knockouts. I agree. He can punch, but there's a lot of limited knockout artists though, man.
He's one of the least active punchers in the game with the highest knockout percentage of current heavyweight.
But if he was a real knockout artist,
champions.
if he was a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best of the best. Felix Trinidad was a knockout artist. He was knocking out the best of the best. If you're a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best and show us how he smokes them.
But,
the way
Paulie,
we did when Felix Trinidad was doing it. You know? The way they did it when Mike Tyson was doing it in his prime. Say what you want about the Mike Tyson era. He knocked out everyone from 1986 to 1989. Everyone got knocked out. Everyone.
Well, by your standard, you could say that Tyson was, to a degree, manufactured.
No, because he fought everyone that was there. Everyone that was there at that time fought.
Teddy Ellis will 100% agree with this.
With the expense of Witherspoon.
We're afraid of him.
With the exception of Witherspoon. No, but they all, doesn't matter. He knocked them all out. There was nobody you could say in that era except maybe Witherspoon, who I contracted.
You can say the same thing about?
Who had contract issues with King at the time. Oh, except for Witherspoon, there is nobody Tyson didn't fight in that era. He knocked them all out. You can't say like, oh, but if he would have fought that guy, I don't know. No, with Davis, there's guys right now that have been hanging around for years. Yo, dude, when you going to fight them? The lightweight division was stacked with talent. Even at 130, it had a lot of talent when he was there. Didn't fight almost any of them. So it's not the same thing as the Tyson era. You want to say anything about Tyson era? Fine. It wasn't as high level or something. He still knocked out everyone. There was nobody there in that era that you could say Tyson didn't fight.
Didn't say it was related. It was the same as the Tyson era. Didn't say it at all. I was actually going to say the opposite when you talk about Trinidad. Trinidad is a bona fide superstar. And the way that he was, and like you said, he fought everybody.
Up and he knocked out.
And he was a knockout punches. No, of course. So that's a different thing. So is Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, you also have to compare it to your contemporaries. Nobody is selling, dude. Nobody is selling. No one sells tickets. No one has a following these days. There's very few fighters who actually sell tickets.
There's a push, bro. I was at Showtime. I was at Showtime. There's a push. But Champ, I don't want to keep cutting you off, but I got to because here's the thing.
Push.
There's a push for certain people. I remember being at Showtime and even watching on HBO on TV. They're mentioning Saul Alvarez, who I didn't even know his name was Canelo at the time, as a possible Mayweather opponent when they were talking about possible Mayweather opponents. I'm like, I knew who the rest of the guys on the list were. Who the hell is this guy? Who's Saul Alvarez? That he's going on, that you're putting him in a list with all these other guys that you were bona fide champions and high-level fighters.
Broadcaster Adit Oladipo took a different approach when analyzing the situation. He argued that staging this type of fight while both Davis and Paul are still in their physical prime is a mistake. In his view, exhibitions make sense once fighters have passed their peak years, similar to Mayweather versus Logan Paul. Doing it now, while both still have meaningful careers ahead, risks distracting them from fights that could cement their legacies. For Oladipo, it's not just about spectacle, it's about timing. These prime years are irreplaceable, and using them for sideshow events might harm their long-term reputations.
Whether you agree with it or not, Gervonta is considered the #1 lightweight in the world. And it's a division that includes Shakur Stevenson, a lot of young guns coming up. I'm not any more sure if it's going to include Keyshawn Davis, but it's a hot division. He's considered #1 in that division. Like, that's why I kind of find this a bit, don't know. Like, there are challenges out there for Gervonta. There are big money fights out there for Gervonta. We want to see Gervonta in those fights. Again, I don't know how many fights people want to see AJ in, just to make the AJ Jake Paul comparison. One, as far as I'm concerned, that was Tyson Fury. I don't really have any interest in seeing an AJ in any other more fights. Whereas Gervonta Davis, I wanted and still do want to see him in so many more fights. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. These exhibition things are, like, really and truly, they should all be when your career's done. Like, when you think of Floyd versus Logan Paul, it's done, right? Floyd versus Conor. Did he have one more after? Was that it? I can't even remember. But it was right at the end. It was done. Right at the end. Even if it wasn't. Right at the end. These guys having these exhibition fights in between what is the peak of their career is kind of weird for me. Very, very weird. And then it isn't even comparable to Ngannou Fury, because at least these guys were the same size. Like, Jake Paul is a 215, 220 pound guy. I don't know what he walks around at. Gervonta fights at 135. guessing he walks around about 155.
Eyebrows because it shows how spectacle can take precedence over genuine sporting rivalries. Roach represented a competitive challenge that could have advanced Tank's career in a traditional sense. Instead, Davis chose the higher-paying but less meaningful option. This trade-off between money and legacy is becoming increasingly common in modern boxing, and critics worry it sets a dangerous precedent for the next generation of fighters. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis is the clash of attributes. Jake holds a natural size and power advantage with the ability to physically dominate if allowed. Meanwhile, Davis brings elite skill, speed, and years of professional experience at the highest level. This dynamic creates unpredictability. Can skill overcome size, or will raw power overwhelm technical mastery? Such contrasts are rare in traditional boxing because weight classes exist to prevent them. By breaking that barrier, the fight injects both danger and intrigue, keeping audiences hooked despite its unofficial status.
So breaking news, Jake Paul will be taking on Tank Davis in an exhibition on November 15th in Atlanta, Georgia, live on Netflix. And this is crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds. So there's a good 60 to 65 pound difference here. It could also mean that Tank Davis is no longer interested in competing for titles anymore and is cashing out of boxing. You know, there's been a lot of talks that Tank is nearing retirement this year, and he was supposed to rematch Lamont Roach after their first fight went to a draw. But instead of chasing the Roach rematch, instead he takes the Jake Paul fight for money. So maybe this is Tank's last, or one of his last fights. And same for Jake Paul. He just got ranked number 14 at cruiserweight after beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So he's supposed to be fighting other ranked contenders or top guys at cruiserweight. But instead, he's taking a money fight. But I do expect these two to go after each other. Even though it is an exhibition, I don't think it'll just be some boring sparring match. I do think they'll try a decent amount. But Tank, obviously, he's a lot more skilled. Jake, he has a lot more size. But you guys let me know who you got.
Former heavyweight Eddie Chambers stepped into the debate with an important reminder. Underestimating Gervonta Davis is a mistake. While Jake Paul's size advantage is obvious, Chambers highlighted that Davis possesses skills far beyond Jake's level. A smaller fighter with superior ability can still dismantle a bigger opponent, especially one without the same level of refined technique. Chambers' warning reframes the fight from being a mismatch to being a test of whether Jake can handle elite-level boxing intelligence. For Chambers, the lesson is simple. Size matters, but skill often matters more.
That something like this can happen, but this is social media, this is what it's created. There's a lane that Jake Paul has created. Honestly, I'm not mad at him for it. He's gotten a lot of fighters and, you know, actual fighters some shine. It also has done for women's boxing a lot. So I'm not mad at him for what he's been in boxing, what he's created. This is a little crazy right here. This is a little crazy. And a lot of people will say, Tank is too small. Let me tell you something. Anybody that gets in the ring with Tank that is not a damn dinosaur is going to feel something from it. And it ain't going to be easy to hit it. Got boxing IQ. He may not sound like an intellectual guy when you hear him talk, but he knows the ring inside and out.
What stands out most in all of this is how well exhibitions function as business ventures. Mayweather has already proven the model. Take fighters from different eras or backgrounds, market the fight as an event, and cash in on spectacle. Jake Paul has followed this blueprint effectively, while Tank Davis now risks stepping into the same territory. The promotional machine behind these events thrives on controversy, debate, and social media hype. Whether people love or hate the matchup, the one guaranteed outcome is attention,